All right. Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much for taking the time out to record another video. I know the first one was a huge hit with the families and it helped so much. How has Colegio been since our last interview?
Well, in first hand, thank you very much. It was it was a big surprise to know that the video is going around, and we have been contacted by many parents, and most of them mentioned that they watched your video. So congratulations, you're a success. Colegio is doing fine, better now because COVID is, well, it's not gone, but at least we are coming back to normal, and these last months were much better than the last 2 years, so we're motivated.
I know, I've even seen a huge difference just in the past few months since like the mask mandate was lifted, and Colegio pretty much was like night and day, like so many more events and things to do. It was great. Even the town, obviously Portugal itself was completely different than before. So it's nice to see how it is back to how it used to be, right? All right, so let's get started with the questions. So the majority of these questions were submitted by potential parents or current parents, interested parents. All the parents were involved in formulating all these questions. So the first question I'm going to ask you, that now that Colegio is on the radar and a lot of parents are interested in enrolling their kids to your school, how is the waitlist situation there currently?
Well, we do have some years that are full, completely full, and we have a waiting list. We still have some spots in secondary school, grade 10, 11, 12. We already have enrollments for 2023, so a year from now.
Oh, wow.
Already. And I am actually advising parents to pre-enroll for the next year, 2023, until December, January.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if a parent is interested in enrolling for the following school year, what are the likelihood or chances that they'll be accepted? Because I know a lot of parents are moving from abroad to coming here. They want to make sure that their children are accepted in a certain school so they can plan around that.
For example, preschool and primary school, families begin to search for a school very early. So normally in April, we already have all the classrooms full in preschool, nursery, and primary school. That's why I strongly recommend that you enroll and contact us until December, January. Then the following years, so from grade 5 to grade 12, the best period is from April to May.
April to May. Okay. So if someone's moving in 2023, you would advise for them to enroll now, pre-enroll now.
Yes.
So, and then the likelihood for them to get accepted, a spot available, is almost 100% that they would be accepted?
It's 100% in the beginning of the cycle. Okay, because let's take primary school for an example. We have grade 1, 2, 3, and 4, right?
Okay.
We have our grade 2 classrooms full right now. We have 2 classrooms, they are full. And if no one quits the next year, I can't accept more students. So they will enter a waiting list. If you enroll for the beginning of the cycle, so for grade 1, of course, it's easier because it's in spots are available, more spots are available, and we just use the list, right? So it's according to the date that you enrolled.
Okay. And just to clarify to parents as well, because this was confusing for me and I know a few other parents, the pre-enrollment form. So the pre-enrollment in the States, like how I viewed it as, when you pre-enroll, we assume that we automatically receive a spot. That's not the case typically. No. It's you're just enrolling mid-school year and you're putting yourself on a wait list. So if a spot becomes available, then you're granted a spot because you pre-enrolled. But pre-enrolling doesn't mean that you're automatically granted a spot.
That's right.
Is that correct?
The pre-enrollment is in intention. Okay? This means that you intend to come to Colegio Rainha Leonor. We have to analyze the spots And we have to also analyze if the certification, right? Because there's also a process, a formal legal process, and we have to confirm that you are enrolling in the correct year, in the correct school year. When we arrive at April, we begin to analyze everything and we contact parents where we are sure that we have spots. So in April, we begin to confirm. The other situations where we are full, we have to wait because we need someone to quit to give a spot.
Okay, so come April, I know this year was a little bit different than the previous year when I pre-enrolled, but this year I received a notification to pretty much asking if I was going to re-enroll my children for the following year. So do you normally have that process first before you then contact the people that are on the pre-enrollment list?
Well, parents that are already in the cycle, in the middle of the cycle, it's our priority to guarantee their spot, of course, because they are already our students. But in the beginning of the cycle, everyone is in the same situation and everyone has to apply again. So imagine that you are in grade 4 and your child is going to grade 5. It's a different cycle. So in that case, everyone is in the same situation and you should tell the school that you want to enroll again, if you're already a student in Colegio, as soon as possible. But usually, we begin that process very, very early.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what if a parent or a family wants to move mid-cycle? So they're coming here in December and would like to enroll their children at Colegio. How does that process work?
It's very difficult. First, because of the spots, because in December, it means that we already have 3 months of classes and probably the classrooms are already full. However, it is legally possible, but it's extremely difficult because, as you know, Portuguese as second language classes begin in September, October, and 3 months in this reality is crucial, right? It's 3 months of the learning process, and it's much more difficult to adapt in December, January than in September. It doesn't mean that it's not possible. I repeat that information. It is legally possible, but it is academically much more difficult.
Okay. So you guys are open to the idea, but under certain circumstances, just knowing that it will require more parental guidance and support.
Yes, and also because we work with semesters. So a student that comes to our school in January is almost in the end of the first semester. Let's imagine that grade 5 has science in the first semester. Okay, and doesn't have science in the second semester because it has another subject. If a student comes in January, he'll have like 3-4 weeks of classes of science. So there's a whole subject that he won't have for next year. That's why it's very difficult. It's not impossible, of course, but if you can choose, or if a family is hesitating between coming in September or December, I strongly recommend September. Of course, I know, and I have been contacted by some parents, and I know that it's not their will to come in December. It's because they can't come before, of course.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about if it's best to hold a child back or not. It's interesting because both my children, they have different ages in their classes. And so I just wanted to kind of get from you, when would you recommend holding your child back a year?
Okay, first, there are two different situations. In the Portuguese school system, a child that turns 6 years old after the 15th of September, so from September 16 to December 31, that child doesn't have to go to primary school the current year. Parents can choose to enroll only the next year. That's why there are Portuguese families that decide to, because they believe that it's the best for their child. That's why you probably have some children in your classroom and in other classrooms that seem to be 1 year older, but it's because of that, because they turned 6 after the 15th of September. It's a decision of the family. Okay, that's the first situation. Regarding international students, expat students, there are families that when they contact us, they already have in mind going back a year. This happens especially in grade 2, when they are going to begin grade 2. Some parents ask to begin in grade 1. Other parents, they don't even ask, but of course, we do inform families that they can do that. We don't know the children, right? So families know their children and know what's best for them. And we always respect that decision, of course. However, when they enter grade 6, grade 8, grade 2, it's something that you can consider. We believe that you could consider that. It can be an option, but of course, it depends on the child, right? It depends how the child was academically, emotionally, how he or she relates with peers. So there's lots of things to consider.
Okay. So as like a foreign family coming and moving here long term, would you say that it's maybe beneficial to hold the child back, especially at the younger ages, a year, to help with the language acquisition and the reading and writing?
Yeah, it's not only the language situation, it's also, I'm thinking about grade 8, for example, because the third cycle is very different and very demanding, and they have lots of subjects. And there are things that they learn, for example, in maths and chemistry, that they learn in grade 8 that they need to have from grade 7. There are things that are taught in grade 7. So if they just land in a grade 8 classroom and they don't know the contents, it will be more difficult, especially maths. Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. So for those older grades, so I guess anything above, 5th grade or 8th grade in your situation, 7th grade, is there a lot of support that the school offers?
We do have support in Portuguese and maths beginning in grade 7. It's in their schedule. And next year, we are going to begin extra support for these children that arrive in our system for the first time. We are going to give the opportunity for parents to choose to have a second teacher in some subjects to help them with the translation, with content, and everything.
Oh, that's great.
We already emailed these parents asking them if they want this extra support, as we already asked if they want Portuguese as a second language. But I strongly recommend those classes in the beginning because it does make a difference.
This extra support will be given towards all grades, upper grades, lower grades. And then does the teacher take them out of the class for that?
Grade 5.
Oh, okay. Starting grade 5.
Yes, starting grade 5. And what we have planned is right now 4 hours a week in certain subjects that we already identified as more difficult for these students. And we will organize it from grade 5 to 10, where we have international students.
So does the teacher take the child out for that grade or that subject or whatever, or does the teacher stay in the classroom and then just translate as they go?
The idea is the teacher to be in the classroom, listen to the teacher, maths teacher, history teacher, whatever, and help with the translation, and also with what is written in the board and everything.
Okay, so this is 4 hours a week, and then how much does this cost? Is it additional
40 euros. Yes.
Okay, so it's
40.
really affordable. Oh, perfect. And does the student have access to their contact information, the assistant teacher, in case they have questions later on when they're doing homework or anything?
Well, we prefer the contact to be with the teacher of the subject, of course, because I won't have a second maths teacher in the classroom. I will have a teacher from the school that will help with the translation and supervising the work. So if there's a doubt very particular regarding the content, it's preferable to speak to the maths teacher.
Okay, well, that's great. I know a lot of parents who have.
Yeah, sorry, Josie. I think in your classroom, you also use Google Classroom a lot, right?
Right.
And so from grade 5 to grade 12, we use it in a daily basis. So if students have any doubt, they can contact the teacher at any time. They can write a doubt, they can contact the teacher, and as soon as possible, of course, the teacher will answer.
Oh, okay, perfect. Because that'd be great, because I know a lot of parents who have older children are very apprehensive on sending their children just because of language barrier. So it's nice that you guys have been proactive and found a solution to the problem.
Yes, in spite of not being an international school or a bilingual school, we do make an effort, and it is a priority to help everyone out. And our teachers, they speak English, they make an effort. We just hired 2 new teachers, and we requested that they spoke English. So it's something that it is a concern, of course. And this year was very important to observe, to learn, to hear children, to hear parents. And that's why we decided to make some changes next year so that everything can be better for everyone, for teachers, children, parents.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. And I can only speak for myself, but I know my husband and we specifically sought out a private school. So we didn't want the international feel. And I really appreciate that your school and you have been making an effort to help the transition, because we know how hard it is, learning a new language and having the kids adapt well. So we really appreciate it. I know that. Coming from the States, I know bullying can be an issue. I can't speak for all other nationalities, but I know for Americans, we do encounter some bullying in school, or we know of people that have been bullied. So at Colegio specifically, do you guys have a policy or procedure in place if that were to happen?
Yes, of course. In first hand, we have school rules, and if a school rule isn't obeyed, we do have different measures for students, and we can, for example, suspend a student, so he can go home for some time and have consequences if there's an issue. However, fortunately, we don't have big problems at Colegio. And it's a big and a small school. It depends where you come from, of course.
Right.
But the truth is that teachers and students are very close. So when something is bothering a student, when he or she is not feeling good with something, the teacher knows immediately, and the teacher acts immediately also. So we don't get there. Do you understand? It doesn't arrive at a situation that is a problem and that we can't resolve.
Okay, that's good to know. So I know at least the good thing with the first cycle that the teachers do kind of grow up with the children. So it's nice to have that connection with a teacher too.
The same thing in the other cycles, because teachers that are with the student in grade 5 will be with the student in grade 6. Teachers that begin the 3rd cycle, I will give you my example. I have one class and they are going to grade 12, and I'm teaching them since grade 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So that's what we usually do, what we believe is the best. So we know our students very well.
And for those that are chiming in and don't know you in the back, you are a teacher as well, too.
Yes. Yes. I'm a Portuguese teacher going to grade 12 with national exam in Portuguese. And I love my students, and I really love teaching. So that's why I have a class. It's very demanding, of course, and I usually say that in the past, I was a better teacher when I didn't have other things to do, but I really enjoy teaching.
That's great. And then do you think once your class graduates, are you going to go back to grade 7 and start all over, or?
I don't know. Maybe a 1-year break. I don't know. I think I need a 1-year break, but I don't know yet. It's a difficult decision because I know all the students of the school, of course, and that even if I decide to have a break, I will probably regret it because I really like to. I like to have a class, especially because it's important to know what is happening. Every generation is different. The students I had 15 years ago are completely different from these students. And when a teacher comes to me with a problem and needs an advice, most of the times what I do is think about what happens in my classroom and what I would do and how I solve the problem, if it works or it doesn't work. So the experience to be in the field is very, very important.
I think so too. And you would never find a principal in high school back in the States also be a teacher. And I think that there is a pretty big disconnect. I mean, I was never a teacher, so I can't really relate, but I think there is a disconnect when you have administration and the professors. So it's nice that you can kind of see how it is to actually be a teacher and then know what you can change with the school. So you have like that power to change things, and also from, a peer standpoint too. So it's very relatable.
Yes. We're a good team. And I'm not talking only academically, of course, but we are very united as a team. There are teachers that are here from the beginning of the school and teachers that arrived last year, but everyone really copes. Everyone thinks about the problems in group, and we come to a solution in group. And I think that's something that has contributed for the success of our school.
That's great. And everyone can see that too.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so let's talk more about second cycle. I know in our previous video, we kind of just touched the topic of first cycle and a little bit of second cycle, but I really want to dive into second cycle and third cycle for new parents. So let's talk about schedule for second and third cycle. I know it's typically a little bit different than the States, where we kind of have back-to-back classes with a lunch break in between. So how does it work in Colegio specifically?
Okay, so it's very different from the state, and it is different from other schools because schedules are made by the school. So every year we make different schedules. If we need to improve from last year, we try to improve. What is common from grade 5 to 9? Every class has Wednesday afternoon and Friday afternoon with no classes. So they are free from classes. Of course, they can attend our extracurricular activities, but they won't have subjects in the afternoon on Wednesdays and Fridays. Then each class has one more afternoon with no classes, but then it will be different from class to class. So for example, 5A can have Monday afternoon, 5B can have the Tuesday afternoon. It depends. It depends, and it depends every year on different situations regarding to teachers, regarding to activities, everything. So from grade 5 to 9, they will have in total, they will have 3 afternoons with no classes. If parents decide that they can go home, they can do their homework, they can study, so they have lots of time to do other things. Other things also go to swim classes, ballet, whatever, extra activities. If they decide that their children remain at school, they can be here until 7 o'clock, and they can be attending extracurricular activities.
Can you give us an idea of what extracurricular activities you provide for older students?
Yes, so we have Spanish, we have English, especially for our Portuguese students. We have computers, we have homework sessions also. Okay. So an hour where they can begin to do their homework or do everything, so they don't take homework home. They have arts also activities. They have volleyball, they have cinema, so movies, and every Friday afternoon, the week ends with a movie session in the library.
Oh, nice.
So these activities are included in the tuition. Then we have clubs, extra, and that we have everything. We have kitchen classes, we have tennis classes, basketball, lots of clubs.
So those clubs are paid or included in the tuition too?
No, these clubs are extra. They are with teachers from outside the school, from clubs of Caldas da Rainha.
Okay, so let's just dive into the computer section where that was included in the tuition. What kind of computer classes? Is it kind of like coding or?
Coding, yes, coding. Okay. Coding classes, yes.
Do you know what specifically the programs that they code with?
Scratch.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to pretend that I know anything about coding, but I don't. So that's great.
I'm not going to argue because I just know what the teachers actually explain.
Okay, that's great. Okay, they learn how to use Scratch. Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just get the schedule straight. So they have 3 afternoons, like is it after lunchtime that they have no school?
After lunchtime.
So roughly 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Okay, so after 2 o'clock, 3 times a week, they don't have any classes and they can opt to stay on school grounds and attend an activity.
Or they can stay at school and play around because it's also very important. That's what I tell some parents, because kids don't have to be every hour doing something supervised, right? They also need to run around, play hide and seek, catch, use the slide. Right. They need to play also. It's very, very important. So
the schedule, so they arrive, school starts still at 9 o'clock until 9:30 for the older.
No, 8:30.
Oh, I'm sorry. So 8:30 and until 2 o'clock, 3 times a week. And then the following days, those 2 other days, is it from 8:30 until what time?
4 or 5.
Okay, so 4 or 5. And do they have classes back to back from 8:30 until 5, or do they have?
No, they have recess in between. Okay, so they have a big recess at 10:30, and then they have small periods in between classes.
Okay, so when you say big recesses, is it usually
it's not very big? I said big and then I regret it. It's like 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, so they have about 15-minute increments every so often through the day. So they don't necessarily leave the school grounds. There's no big. Okay.
They're not allowed to leave the school.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I know at some schools they have longer hours in between that they leave school grounds and come back. So, okay.
No, we do not. Of course, secondary school students they are more independent and parents allow them to leave. But usually grade 5 to 8, grade 5 to 9, they aren't allowed to leave school.
Okay, so the schedule that we were talking about is really from grade 5 to 8.
9.
Sorry. 9. Okay, grade 5 to 9.
From grade 10 to 12, they will only have 2 afternoons with no classes, Wednesdays and Fridays.
Okay, so
you have more hours of subject.
Okay, so that goes back to you explaining that it's a pretty tough grades to be and to start off your children.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about grade 10 to 12, which are academically harder than the previous grades. So you're kind of prepping them now for university or another trade in life. So I'm going to reference a lot from back in the States because that's all I know. So back in the States, we had guidance counselors kind of mentoring you, walking you through to see what career path you want to go down. If you want to go down the university path or trade school or anything like that. Do you have something similar?
Yes. In grade 9, our psychologist does the counseling the whole year with students, and she helps them, the students and the parents, of course, to decide what they are going to do. If they are going to training classes or if they are going to more general studies to prepare them to university. So that begins in grade 9, because when they end grade 9, they have to decide what they want to do, what classes, what courses, what areas do they want to study in the secondary school. Then during secondary school, so from grade 10 to grade 12, she also has a weekly session that is available. It's an open session, and students can come in and prepare their future and know their options, get to know university. Teachers that teach in secondary classes, they also organize field trips to universities.
Okay.
Yes, so we visit universities that are a reference, of course, and that are from the area of studies that they are attending, that the students are attending, and that has been very, very helpful because it is important to choose a university, but it is also very important to have other options. Sometimes we don't achieve our first option, our first goal, and it's very important to have an open mind and have other options in mind.
So, for instance, I know some European countries tend to have a pretty standardized test that kind of outlines your future, essentially, right?
Yes.
Like in France, they have the baccalaureate. So does Portugal have the same thing?
Well, yes. We have 2 national exams in grade 11 and 2 national exams in grade 12. The national exam depends on your area of studies, okay? So if you are doing science, you will be doing national exam in geometry, in chemics, or in biology. In grade 11. Then you will do Portuguese and math in grade 12. So it depends on what you are studying. But you have, in the total, you have 4 national exams. Portuguese in grade 12 is the same in every area of studies.
Okay, so in 9th grade, when you're talking to your psychologist, they review your current grades and talk to your current teachers. And they kind of help guide you to which studies you want to go down, whether it's science or math or art or whatever. Okay.
Languages also.
Okay, so at that point in grade 10, you are then taking the courses for whatever studies you guys all chose.
Yes.
And then at grade 10, let's just say you're going through the studies and you realize this is not the route. You're not doing well in what you thought you were going to do. So are you able to then to change your field of studies?
Yes. Until December of that year, you can change studies with no problem, and you just continue. If you decide after that, you will have to repeat the school year.
Okay. So it's pretty, that talk with a psychologist is a pretty strong conversation.
Yes, but it does happen. It's not the end of the world, of course. It's okay to have some doubts, but of course, sometimes, sometimes students are very focused on an option, and they are not emotionally available to receive another option, even if the counselor thinks it's better. That sometimes also happens, but there are lots of options actually. There are so many possibilities that parents aren't aware of, but that the school can help. And sometimes it's not necessary to repeat. It really depends on the situation, and it depends on what is happening to that student.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's talk about like university acceptance, right? So how does it work in Portugal? Like what do they look for on those standardized testing for those 2 grades to get accepted?
Okay, so the majority of universities have the following system. 50% is the score of the national exam of the subject that they choose, okay? The university decides which is the subject, which is the national exam that they will be accepting, okay? The other half, the other 50% is the scores of the school, the average of the school. The students scores at school, okay? Because beginning in grade 10, they have a scale from 1 to 20, and in the end of grade 12, they will have an average for each subject for the 3 years. Okay. For example, they will have maths 3 years, grade 10, 11, and 12. If they have 10 in grade 10 is, it's 1 to 20, so 10 is really in the border, right? If they have 10 in grade 10, 11 in grade 11, 12 in grade 11, their average will be 11. So that is the average of the school score, and it is 50%, okay? Then imagine that in the national exam, the student gets a 16 or a 17. That 16 or 17 will be the rest of the score. So will be 50% of the score that they will apply with.
Interesting. Okay, it's completely different. That's good to know.
Very different.
And every university will have a different requirement for acceptance. Yes. So if they don't get into, let's say, the best university in Portugal, they have other options for other universities that will accept their score.
Yes, they can choose 6 different universities.
Okay.
So they have lots of options.
And then do they typically continue the path of studies? Like, let's just say they focused on math as their concentration in high school. Do they then continue that in university, or can they change their studies in university?
With maths, you can study in many areas. Economics, marketing, publicity, also to be a doctor, you will need maths and biology, for example. So maths is very important because it is the national exam for many universities. However, we do have a list. It's a big list. So the school is aware of everything, and it is also online. We always help students to know where they can search for the information, and it is actually something that they begin to prepare in grade 10. Usually when they arrive at the end of grade 12, they already know which 6 options they will apply to.
Okay. And then what are the popular universities that most students want to attend?
Well, right now they are in Lisbon. For many years, there was this battle between Coimbra and Lisbon. Now Lisbon is very popular. Porto too, it's also popular, but right now we have Nova. Nova is a very good university, and it has lots of areas of studies. Universidade de Lisboa, ISCTE, but there are also many universities outside these big cities that are also very good, like Évora, by the interior also has some universities. There's lots of options actually. But yes, Lisbon is very popular for students right now.
Do you find that the majority of your students tend to go to university in Portugal, or do they go out of Portugal?
Well, we have both situations actually. Of course, the majority is attending university in Portugal, but every year we have students that apply to universities outside.
Okay, that's good. So you guys still help prepare for studies outside. Okay. And then I know in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you guys had mentioned that the classes tend to be harder. Would you say that they're comparative to what we would call AP classes back in the States, whereas like advanced placement classes where it's mostly college level material that they're learning?
Yes, so it is. However, there are no credits for university, unfortunately. But yes, it is. Of course, you will have subjects that aren't so difficult, okay? Not everything is very difficult, but it is very demanding. Yes, it is. And there is a big difference between third cycle and secondary school.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess if you're already trying to, prep them for university, someone coming in, the 10th, 11th grade, it's
yes,
going to be challenging.
Because as I mentioned before, a third cycle teacher is also a secondary school teacher. So when a teacher is teaching grade 7 or grade 8, he is thinking about the future. So he knows where does he have to invest, where she or he has to invest more for things to be easier in secondary school. There is that, we do prepare thinking about the future, yes, even in third cycle.
So let's just say the student realizes university is not for them and they want to do something different. Do you guys help with trade schools or a training program?
We are also a trained school. We have from grade 10 to 12, we also have that option of study. We have sport, communication, and teacher assistants. Well, those students, after they finish their studies, they can begin to work. But any students with the grade 12 diploma can begin to work. Of course, different options of jobs, but they will receive, every student will receive a diploma after they finish grade 12, and they can apply to jobs.
Okay, perfect. And then do you help with job placements and recruiting and everything?
We do have some institutions that work with us, that collaborate with us, and we can give contact, but we do not have that power to decide, of course, or to help in that situation.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. Okay, so I know back in the States, I keep saying this, but I know back in the States, because that's where I come from, we have what we call driver's ed, where it helps the students learn how to drive and gives you courses that's provided by the school, and then you take a test and get your driver's license. How does it work in Portugal? Does that offer?
Not here, not this school, not any secondary school in Portugal that I know of, but the city has lots of schools that teach how to drive. But I actually find that very interesting. Students here, they're not children, teenagers here can only have their driver's license at age 18.
Oh, that makes sense, because I think...
Okay, so that's why at age 18, they are already at university or working, so...
Oh, okay. Yeah, back in the day, decades ago now.
Very different, very different.
Well, even now, I think we get it at 16 and a half. I mean, when I was growing up, it was 15 and a half, where you get your like permit and then you drive. Yeah, that's great. That makes sense now when you're 18.
Not here, 18.
Do most students that go to your school, how do they commute into school? Do the parents drop them off? Do they take public transportation? How does that work?
We do have some students using public transportation, but 90% come with their parents.
Okay. So that's still pretty common.
Yes, it is. Some also walk to school.
Well, that's really nice because you guys have a new park or walkway to the school now. So that's kind of nice that they're building up that area next to you.
Yes.
So let's talk about your teachers and their training. So I've seen online and I've talked to your teachers now that they are provided with a lot of training support. So what kind of support or what kind of training or qualifications do you look for or try to implement to all your teachers?
Okay, so we have training sessions regarding the school's project. We have been having training sessions regarding technologies using iPad in the classroom, but that's because it's our project, so we give those sessions. But then there are other situations that teachers feel that they need to invest in an area, or we provide and we have a general session for the whole department or more teachers, or we manage to find people outside the school that can provide those sessions. Every year we have training sessions.
Okay, and then when you hire new teachers, like you said, you've hired a few new ones, what do you look for when you're interviewing teachers?
Well, first thing is that they love to teach and they love children and teenagers. That has to be something that when we are talking to that person, we feel that. If we don't feel that, It's not good.
Right.
First, that's essential, right? That people love to do, that they are applying for a job not because they need to, but also because they really wish to work in that area, and especially in this school. Then what else? English begins to be, it was always very important for us, but now it's really very important. It also depends if we are hiring for kindergarten, primary school, secondary school. So we look for different things, but it's important for them to be, also have mindfulness sessions, training sessions. We also look for that. Technologies, someone that can use both things, use technology in the classroom, but not always. Someone that can find the best situation, someone that can motivate students, someone that believes that the student can always do more, and someone that doesn't leave students behind. The perfect teacher, I guess.
Well, it seems like you hired a lot of good ones, so don't worry. You're doing a great job.
Good. Okay, thank you.
So what is the future for Colegio? Tell us your secret. Tell us what is in store. Tell us what you won't tell anybody else.
No, only all of your viewers, right?
Right.
Well, next year we are going to open one more preschool classroom, one more grade 7 classroom, and one more 4th grade classroom. We are growing. The future, well, I guess at this time of the year, we always find things where we can improve and that we want to do better. So we look at our school, not only the building, but also the project, of course, and we are always trying to find where we can do different, because there's always something that we can improve. Right now, we are very focused on our DL program, the one with the iPad. It was a good year. It was very positive, and we had parents filling in a survey, answering some questions, and we had positive feedback about the program. So we are going to continue to invest in that area, and and we're always looking at what is happening in the school system and what we can do different. So always expect something different at Colegio, because it's something inside us. We just don't settle in. We think that we have to do better every year because we're not perfect, of course. We are also going to change our library. We are going to transform a digital space.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, it's our next priority. Maybe we are also planning 2 years from now, changing our soccer field, not the primary school soccer field, the other one. So lots of things in mind.
The program that you had just mentioned with the iPads, this was something new because obviously my children aren't at that age yet. I think next year are starting at that age.
Yes, grade 3.
So was the last year the first year that you guys test run this program?
Yes. We began with grade 3, 4, and 5. So next year, September, we will have 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and so on. So it was the first year, and teachers are loving the experience. They love the experience. And next year, we will have a group of 2, 3 teachers that weekly will be thinking about the program and looking for material, sharing material with the other teachers.
So this program is pretty much using Apple Classroom. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Can you kind of elaborate the program?
Yes. Well, we are not going to substitute the teacher or whatever, because sometimes people have the wrong idea. What we believe is that society is changing, and we are preparing our students for jobs that weren't invented yet. So we really have to prepare them in everything. And we believe that the use of the tablet, of the iPad in the classroom is very good, because there's a lots of potential. Students are more motivated, of course, when they use the iPad. If you ask a student to do a worksheet, a maths worksheet, or do the same worksheet in the iPad, he will be more motivated doing the worksheet in the iPad. It's the same thing, but the motivation is very different. And research, so many questions that students have in a classroom, and they can just Google it, look for it, or use apps that we have, educational app problems to learn some content. We have different students in the classroom. We have different rhythms in the classroom, and we can have students doing one type of work, another type of work. Of course, we're not using it the whole day. Okay, it's not always. It's when it makes sense and when technology is useful.
Okay, because I know a lot of parents don't want their children to be on the iPad or be on the computer or have a lot of screen time in school. Actually, some parents search for that school that doesn't have that as an option. So if a child is interested in Colegio and a lot of tablet work is happening, does the parent have the option to not have their child use a tablet if needed?
Well, no, because it's in our terms, our conditions, that a student that is studying in these grades will be in the project. However, of course, that when we began, we had lots of parents that were scared, that had those issues. And with the experience, they noticed that they can trust us because we aren't always using the iPad. We are using the iPad like we use the notebook. When we use the calculator, we use it when it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, we don't use it. We will continue investing on handwriting and everything. We will use the pencil, the eraser. We're not robots, okay? So we are not forming robots. It is the future. It is the future. And if a student can learn to use technology with a specialized adult, the teachers, right? They will look at technology in another way. The iPad doesn't have to be only games. The iPad is knowledge. It is helpful. That's what we are doing. So no, we actually ask that question. If parents believe that in the end of this current year, if students were using were using technology more than before for other purposes, and parents said no.
Oh, that's good.
So yes, so they separated, because this iPad that I am talking about is locked to school, so they can't be using it for other purposes, only for an academic purpose.
Okay, that's reassuring that your whole classroom isn't like a virtual classroom now.
No, don't worry, but a year from now you will talk about the experience.
Okay? I'm sure I will. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so much so far in the future for my children, and it's a bright future for them. So I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Josie, thank you for your support and for the time, because it's always nice to talk about our school and what we believe in. And thank you for believing in us.
Of course, it's my pleasure. I appreciate it too.